Basically, this is not simply the Sunday of the Resurrection. This is a feast of Saint Zacharias and Saint Elizabeth, who are the parents of John the Baptist. The Old Testament readings, which would have been read at Vespers, were given actually an evolution of the amazing or wonderful births that occurred as part of God's plan. And the first reading yesterday actually follows after the hospitality of Abraham, that when God in triune form presents himself to Abraham, and Abraham serves him, and God says, by this time next year, Sarah will have a little boy. And of course, Abraham thinking, well, it's not thinking, it's spelled this out in Genesis, but Abraham is saying, I'm 100 years old, Sarah's 100 years old, maybe. And God said, well, that's okay, you're still going to have a son. And of course, Sarah laughs. And that's why the boy is named Isaac. It means laughs. I laugh, it's a smile. But again, so we see that, God works his ways we do not understand. And so it's not surprising that Abraham and Sarah at that age would say, okay, fine, thank you, it's a pious wish, we appreciate it, but God acts in his ways. So in the second read is the reading of the birth of Samson. Again, Samson's a miraculous birth. Now, the difficulty is an angel appears to Manoah's wife in the field and says, well, you're going to bear a son. So she comes back to tell her husband, who obviously has his questions. And so they say, well, let's go out and find the angel. And they go out in the field, and the angel comes to them. And they offer him a sacrifice. The angel says, I'm not going to eat the sacrifice, but if you want to offer it to the Lord, it will be acceptable. And now, again, showing the doubt here. But they want to know the name of the angel. And the angel says, why do you need to know my name? It is wonderful. So I mean, this is God himself who's presented in the form of an angel. The reason names are not given, it was thought that if one actually knows the name, one knows the essence of the individual and therefore has power over him. And so the angel, in this case, is the theophany of the Lord, is saying, my name is wonderful. That's all you need to know. Sacrifice is offered. It's flame comes down from heaven. The angel goes up in the flame. So then the third one is the birth of Samuel. Hannah is, they've gone to make their yearly pilgrimage. Hannah is childless, and of course, being childless is not looked upon as a sign of favor from God. And so Hannah is crying before the altar, and Eleazar, who's the priest, thinks she's drunk. So stop this. And she explains she's pouring her heart out to God until Eleazar says, may your prayer be granted. And of course, she goes back home and conceives, and she bears Samuel, who is the last priest and prophet and judge of Israel. But again, it's a question of, we see there's doubt, and then there's faith, because Hannah had that faith. Which then brings us to the last miraculous birth, which is, of course, of the Virgin. Because her parents were aged as well, and had no child, and were looked down upon as having been childless. And they prayed to God, and God granted them a child. And again, with the Virgin, as with Samuel, the child was dedicated to God and taken to the temple, which will then give us to the fifth miraculous birth, which is, of course, that of Jesus. But in this instance, there is no doubt. If you remember, Zechariah has an appearance of the angel Gabriel to him while he is serving in the Holy of Holies on the Day of Atonement, saying you're going to have a son. And, again, I'm old, okay. And, of course, among other reasons, because he's doubted, he cannot speak, which may be why the icon doesn't speak at times. But the fact is, in each of these cases, there was a hint of a doubt. There was faith. They accepted it because we saw what happened after Elizabeth conceived when they went to name the child. Zechariah then spoke and prophesied. We know that Elizabeth prophesied because when she was in her 6th month, the virgin came to tend to her cousin. And when the virgin arrives, Gospel of Luke tells us, the baby leaps in the womb for joy. And Elizabeth is filled with the Holy Spirit and says, why is it that the mother of my God should come to visit me? So these are very special people. And then, of course, when Gabriel appears to Mary, there is no doubt. She says, I'm okay with it. And then, how is it done? As opposed to say, well, it couldn't be done. So, so we see this interesting evolution in the readings of how faith develops and when true faith comes and is acceptable. But we have to remember about Zechariah and Elizabeth that at the time, and it's not often connected, but when we celebrate the slaying of the holy infants in Bethlehem, it's on the 27th of December, I think that's when we do it. This is also tied to the martyrdom of Zechariah. Because remember, the Magi came looking for the king of Israel, the one that had been promised and had been born. And she goes to Herod's court. Well, Herod wasn't Jewish. But they called the priests and the scribes, and the priests and the scribes said, yeah, it's in Bethlehem. So the Magi say, well, I'll go run off. Herod says, let me know about it so I can come worship him. So the Magi go, find him, worship the child, being warned in a dream. They go home another way. And actually in the Akathist to the Virgin, we make fun of that the Magi knew who was Christ, but Herod was left as a babbler. But in any event, the beauty of this is that because Herod in his anger, it's not just the children he killed. He went after, because one has to remember the question of John the Baptist's birth, because that again is told us in Luke, that the Father prophesies that this is going to be a great prophet who is announcing the way of God. And this miraculous birth and utterance and prophecy is carried around in the neighborhood. So, there was no social media the like that people talk. And these things get around, and I'm sure everyone said, oh, this is a miraculous birth. So if you're Herod and you want to eliminate any potential contenders for the throne, maybe you want to find out where that child is, because that may be the child. And so Zechariah serving, again, it would be serving at the altar in the temple, because it was his time for priestly duty, was murdered there because they were looking for the child. And tradition tells us that when they came to Bethlehem, because they were rounding up the child, that Elizabeth fled with John, and the mountain opened up, and they went into the mountain. And so that's all we know about it. But so Zechariah and Elizabeth, this is a major feast day, honoring these two great saints. Again, showing that even one has questions where there is faith, God still accomplishes his mission. And then that brings us to the end, which we always talk about, which is the cross. Because what happens to Zechariah? He is martyred. What happens to Elizabeth? Well, again, she has to flee. The rock is. These are confessors and martyrs in the faith, as John the Baptist will be. And so the interesting thing ties it back to the point of the gospel. Because the gospel is we have to forgive. Because the king, after all, forgave someone who was in an immense debt that could never be paid for in many lifetimes. And he said, okay, I forgive the debt. But remember what happened to the servant. He didn't forgive the debt of anybody else. And so the king said, well, that's too bad. The measure by which you judge, you will be judged. The king forgave him of his debt. He would not forgive another of his debt. So the king then did not forgive him of his debt. So the good news of Christ is that with his death, our debts are paid. That's the good news. But as Christians, we have to remember that comes with a price, and the price is our witness and our martyrdom. And so we see that throughout the Old Testament, where every prophet is martyred. And we see that certainly in the New Testament, as well as in the tradition and the history of the church that's grown up, that when one is called to stand up for God, then one is going to be martyred. It may be that young Presbyterian minister's daughter at Columbine, it may be the cops in Libya, but wherever we're called upon to be martyred, and that's the cross, and that's what we carry. But from day to day, we have to forgive everyone's sins. Every one of us is flawed. We all make mistakes. We offend people in ways we do not know, and so we can't be offended when we're offended. In any event, it's a lovely feast day, 2 great saints. And again, hopefully, we're going to do the Paraklesis service after Vespers tomorrow. Thank you.